Hello, I'm Dave Speakman. Today we're going to look at this new drum kit that my friend Hugh from UK Percussion Concepts has bought.
Yeah.
Hugh's bought this drum kit and it's come with stock skins. We're going to record it using this set of Telefunken mics. This is the Telefunken DP7 set. And he's bought a full new set of drum skins for this. So we're going to skin it up with the stock skins and record it. And then we're going to reskin the kit with some fancy skins that he's bought. And we're going to see what better results we can get with that. It should be an interesting one. Hugh's bought this kit. Where did you buy this kit from, Hugh?
So, do you say this as Toman or Thoman? I don't know, the big shop, the big European shop. It's a Tama Club Jam kit. And it's in this little box. It's hard to believe that you've got an 18-inch bass drum, a floor tom, a rack tom, a snare drum, and all the bits in this little box. So it's going to be interesting to see how good we can get this kit sounding today.
Yeah, so your idea was basically to buy a cheaper drum kit and to see how good you could get a cheaper drum kit to sound.
Yeah. So I thought a little bit about heads I would put on it and thought, right, okay, the sound I normally get from a drum kit is I achieve, with these heads, these woods, I've got, I've had expensive kits, I've got expensive kits. I just thought, well, why not? Let's just see what we can do for a fairly modest budget,
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Should we crack it open?
Let's do it. That's the floor tom. It's only 7-inch deep, so it's actually the size of a snare drum, that, but it's the floor tom. So it'll be interesting to see how that sounds. Bass drum. They always look so small without the hoops on in the head.
Sure, yeah.
With a hoop. And that'll be the snare drum in there.
Okay. I'm really interested to see how this comes out because I have a drum kit of my own that I bought not long ago. So it's going to be interesting to see this because I'd quite like to reskin my kit as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We've got the skins on. These are the stock skins that the drums came with.
Yeah.
We're just going to tune these up now and see if we can get this kit to sound okay with the stock skins.
Yeah, just the stock skins.
It's probably worth mentioning that we're not going to bother with the stock snare drum, Hugh. Why is that?
No, I've got my snare drum here. The snare drum that ships with the kit is a little 13-inch 6-lug thing, and it just is what it is. It's just a fairly cheap snare drum. I think it's going to be fine for like practice or something like that, but if we want to get a good sound, I think we need a decent snare drum.
And we were talking about this before, and we were sort of saying how actually the snare drum's probably the most important sound. So if you're going to spend money, it's probably a good idea to spend money on a decent snare drum, spend a little bit less on your kit. You're probably going to get a better sound.
Ultimately,
really.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about tuning now then. So which drum do you want to tune first?
Let's have a look at this floor tom.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So this is an unusual floor tom because it's so shallow.
Yeah.
I mean, the theory with tuning is very, very simple in that you want to be pulling the counter hoop down with an even amount of tension so that the skin is evenly tensioned all around. And it's the theory of it's so simple.
Sure.
In practice, that can be quite problematic because you may get a drum that's theoretically perfectly in tune. It just doesn't sound great. So there's always the difference between real life getting a sound out of the drums that sounds good and this kind of the perfect scientific approach, if you like. As we're going to explore, a lot of it's perhaps due to the heads that you've got on. Yeah. These heads are just obviously as such. They ship with the kit. They're absolutely fine for a beginner or something. Yeah, they'll get a sound. So let's see what we can do with this. The bottom skin generally is going to be to a slightly higher tension than the top skin. So I actually always start with the resonant side, the reso side. So for this drum, I'm just going to take it off the legs, in fact. And if I put it on my lap, it stops any kind of crosstalk interference from the other head.
Cool. I'm just going to move this microphone in so that we can hear it a little bit better here.
Put the head on already, and I've already just got to the tension rods to a basic tension. So what I'm doing here, just using my fingers to just get them to a finger tight position.
Which presumably gets you off to an even starting
Yeah,
point,
it's kind of like a 0 point. It's kind of like a 0 point, so that you know you're starting in a good place. It's interesting looking at this stock head. I've done this and I've set the head pretty nicely on the drum, but yeah, you can still see little imperfections there.
It's not quite even, is it?
We'll see. So I'm using this Tama key as well. This is quite a nice key because it's got this knurled thing on the top. So you can just sort of spin, and you can use a bit of tension. I'm going around in a star shape so that I'm not skewing the head to one side by going circular. And I'm just using my...
And are you listening to it? Because I can hear this, the head, you can hear it coming up now as he's doing this. I don't know whether you can hear that on the recording. And you're listening to that as well? Yeah,
that now, instead of being finger tight like this, I guess is also finger tight, but it's with this...
Finger tight, oh right, that's interesting. Yeah,
with this thing, you know, so it's actually slightly higher tension. So you can see I've got this massive drop in pitch here. I'm just going to start messing around and just trying to get it.
Do you have a note in mind that you're going for, Hugh? You know,
some people do.
Some friends of mine, they use the piano to tune to.
Yeah, I guess it depends how much of a scientist you want to be. I think it's just a case of ears, really. You know, this is obviously ringing a little higher. And this is interesting, if you tap here, it makes quite a big difference if you use the opposite.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's a surface tension thing, isn't it? So there's actually quite a lot of physics involved in what's going on with it.
The physics of it, it's a bit of a black art, really. I think it's a good best practice. You know, a lot of people just put a little bit of tension through the head, just to get
and is that stretching it out a little?
Yeah, just getting the plastic film seated at the edge.
Yeah, it's similar when we put guitar strings on, we stretch them out. Yeah.
Well, let's go with that for now and fine tune it. So now I'm going to go through exactly the same process with the top head. See how we do that.
The interval that Hugh's tuned it to there seems to be a perfect fourth. And I've heard people talk about it being the optimum being between a minor third and fifth, really, for those who are musically minded.
Yeah, you mustn't forget that the actual room you're in. So many times I've previously been sat at home in my practice room and you spend ages tuning the drums, and then you get on a gig and you get into a different space, a different venue, and it just doesn't sound.
And on some recordings, I mean, the bottom head higher is the usual thing. On some recordings I've done, we've found that the bottom head being lower has been right for that occasion. It's just that everything's right for what you need it for at the time, isn't it?
Pragmatic approach.
Always be aware of anybody who says this is the way to do something.
Yeah, I don't really do the interval thing. You know, I just go by the sound and then the room, and then adapt the sound to the room, and just. I also find that actually, you just get the drum to a point where it just likes to be, and it just
sure.
Okay, bass drum.
Let's do the bass drum, yeah.
So if you're wondering what this cable is, we've put a microphone in there.
We've got the Telefunken M82 as the bass drum mic. It's a fantastic bass drum mic. It's part of that set that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So we've got, again, with the bass drum, you've got the resonance side and the batter side. Okay, so this, I've got this to a nice point. Yeah, I can't tighten those anymore using that. And if I press down, there's no sort of excess wrinklage. So some people would leave it there. I'm just going to take it up slightly, just a quarter turn. Oh dear, yeah, so that one's obviously lower.
And obviously these heads that they ship with are going to be cheap as chips, yeah? The cheapest ones that they can get away with, yeah?
It's, well, for the price point, I guess it's what you get, what you pay for.
So now we're looking at the batter side.
Yeah, so for this one, I mean, there's loads of conflicting advice out there. Essentially, what I like to do is kind of give the head a bit of a push here.
In the middle, in the centre of the head.
Yeah, and then just hold the head down, not too tight. Just put some tension on. So I'm just putting a little bit of tension here. And just, you can feel it, you know. You can feel it and actually see it in the light.
You can certainly see where the head's rippling slightly, yeah.
You can kind of just see it. So
great, let's get a pedal on it and see what it's like, yeah.
Yeah. It's all right. It's okay. You know, considering that's the stock heads, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. But we can do better.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to swap the heads over now and see what... I mean, it sounded pretty cool to me with this...
It sounded, you know, I'd be happy with that.
How much was the kit?
€555, and that included a set of bags.
Euros, what's that in real money?
So just under £500, and that included the cases as well. So it's
a
great deal. You know, they've got a good deal.
Yeah. So you've gone with these Aquarian heads. I mean, Aquarian's not a brand that I know all that well. What's the thinking?
Well, the thinking behind the going for Aquarian. I mean, I love Remo heads and Evans heads and Aquarian heads. They all make great heads.
Yeah.
The reason I chose Aquarian for this kit is they make some quite thick heads in order to try and get the drums to sound perhaps a little bit bigger than they are. You know, so it's only a 10-inch rack, and the floor tom being so shallow, and it's only an 18-inch bass drum. I want to try and get a bit more out of the drum, so I thought if I went for the thicker heads, I'm less reliant on the shell material, and I'm going to deepen the pitch of the drums.
Okay.
So this is Aquarian Super Kick 10. It's a 2-ply 10mm per ply, I think, drum head for the bass drum batter. That's that. And it's got this floating muffle ring thing, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of nice and thick.
And you think this would be good for my kit, do you? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. The Super Kick thing. Certainly, a lot of sound engineers really like them.
Yeah.
Then for the rack tom and the floor tom, the batter side, I'm using these Deep Vintage. They've got a vintage appearance to them, a sort of yellowy, sort of calfskin-esque, sort of, I don't know, maybe tobacco stained, you know, old 70s style.
Yeah.
And these are 2-ply heads, again, thick 2-ply heads, very, 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 well, not dead, that's a kind of a bit of an insult to say that, isn't it? A dead head, you know, but I think that'll sound quite good.
Great.
For these. And on the bottom, the resonance side, I've just got a classic clear. So just a single ply head.
And you've decided to change both the top and bottom.
Heads.
Why is that, Hugh? Because forgive my ignorance, I kind of think of the top head as being more important. Would that be fair?
Well, they're working in concert, aren't they? They're working together. You know, it's you can probably just change the batter heads and improve the sound, but if you really want to improve the sound of a kit, then you change the whole lot. So there we are. That's the Deep Vintage for the floor tom, and the final one. This is a lot of people do this. Is for the resonance side of the floor tom. I've gone for a 2-ply head. It's a clear head. Yep. but it's what they call a response to. So it's it's going to be a lower pitch, which is obviously better for the floor tom if you want to get a nice big sound out of this.
Because the tuning of the bottom head affects the overall tuning.
That's right,
doesn't it?
Yeah,
you know, as much as the top head does. Yeah, I think a lot of people think
some people say even more. You know, like it's.
I've certainly found that.
Yeah, the thing is though, you can get lost in all the theories and the science, and you know, you've just got to get out there and play the things. And
yeah, it's about being creative ultimately, isn't it? I mean, we're geeking out here, but ultimately it's just about making noise. You know, it's just sound, isn't it?
Controlled noise. Yeah.
Cool. Great.
All right. So I'll put these on.
Yeah, we'll get these new heads on now, and then we'll listen to Hugh whacking the drums on these new ones, and let's see what the conclusion is. Thank you.
Certainly the drums have got a lot more body, haven't they? You know?
Hopefully you can hear the difference. Certainly in the room, there's 3 of us in the room here. To all 3 of us, it sounds significantly better with the new heads on.
Yeah.
Hugh still wants to work on the tuning of this rack tom because he's never happy, bless him.
I know.
We'll see you again next week. New content every Friday.
Nice one.